We got lots of new players coming to the scene, and that's pretty hype. We got the Lemonade event coming up that's going to bring in new players. League of Legends season is ending, which is going to bring in new players. And the Nimble Neuron staff have indicated there's going to be an uptick in advertising. So with that being said, I've gotten a lot of feedback on like new player videos, and most of them say the same thing. So the goal of this one is to more so look at what you're doing that you shouldn't be and things that you can improve on that maybe other videos didn't show you. If you're just kind of new to the game and you do want the basics, I got videos for that, but this is going to be a little bit of a step further. So without further ado, here is 10 things you fuck up doing while playing Eternal Return. So the first thing is what they do is they don't have an objective while playing. So what I mean by that is they just kind of wander the map. What you want to do is always have a game plan, whether it's you want to go grab bears at dock or you want to go contest a tree in cemetery. You always got to be thinking, what is the next thing I want to do that's going to advance me along the game? What I see a lot of new players doing is they'll just casually maybe hunt for kills or pick up farm here and there without actually routing with a purpose. If you're not routing with a purpose, you're probably not farming well, which you're going to fall behind in mastery, and you're probably not getting good transitional items, which means you're going to fall behind with your build. A lot of the tips or tricks or whatever you want to call it in this video are going to kind of recall back to this first standard tip. Just make sure you always have an objective, stick to it, even if it's not the most optimal play. Just stick to your guns and go for it. Like, the worst thing you can do is wander the map with nothing to do. Another thing new players aren't very efficient with is food and transitional items. If I had $1 every time I asked my friend after he's full build, hey man, you got food? And he says no, I'd have a lot of money. So what you're going to want to do is prep your food as you're building through all of your items. Sometimes it's a little harder with inventory because some builds are a little more inventory intensive as others. But for an example, with Adriana, I want to get food up at Avenue, and I combine that, get the Choco Pies, and I can get the boxes down at Dock after I'm done with my build, and I just have Choco Pie boxes right away, and that's a lot of good food, like right as I finish my build, so I'm feeling free to go fight people. Another thing I do is prep my transition item as I go through. An example would be for William. I want to get that Grenade of Antioch pretty much as soon as I can because that's a really nice item that I can fight with. What I'm going to do is if I see metal or I see an extra iron ball, I'm going to just bring that with me as I'm prepping all my stuff. I might have to juggle items in my inventory, but it's going to be well worth it at the end. Another thing people fuck up is they don't know their matchups. You can play every fight the same and you're going to get different results depending on what character you're fighting. That's why I encourage one-tricking, so your side of the things is always going to be the same, so it's really going to be less information you have to process. Imagine if you played pretty much every character, that's like 40 times 40 matchups, like it's gonna be a lot. But the more you play and the more attention you pay to these matchups for your character, the more win conditions you're going to find. So say you're playing against a Nathapon, right? You're going to be looking to avoid his E, and then you're going to also be looking to kind of mess with his combo in a way. So if you can get away from his combo, the only way he can escape the fight is his R. You dodge that and you're big chillin'. You're going to play that a lot different than you're going to play like a Luke fight to say, where he's going to want to just jump on you and Oonga Boonga you to death. So keeping it in mind, these fights and these different matchups is going to be super important while playing. So just make a mental note every time you lose a matchup, like, hey, what went wrong there? Or every time you win a matchup, like, hey, what did they not do to win that one? Something I've also noticed is new players don't know when to leave a fight. There's very few characters that you just kind of send it in there and you're fully committed to the fight. I think even Luke at this point in the game can camera hop out of a fight pretty well. So there's not much excuse. A lot of characters do have really good escapes though. Like Hyjin can pretty much dip out of any fight she wants. Same with Adriana. These kind of characters, like if you go into a fight and you know you're not going to win, you gotta just cut your losses and take it when it's more beneficial down the road. I see so many new players saying, well, if I'm fighting this person now, even if I'm getting smoked, I'm not going to dip out. Just keep that in mind. You don't want to be too passive in the fact that you're looking to dip out every fight, but just make sure you know like that is an option if the fight goes to hell. So transition items is something kind of easy to understand, but when new players think about it, they really only think about the gold items or the mithril items. You can do small transitions as well. So an example is when I'm playing Adriana, I start my Rocker's Vest, and that's just a convenience of my build, right? I'm finishing my build quickly so I can get into the game and start farming and killing players earlier. But the Rocker's Jacket isn't the most stat-worthy item for Adriana. I'd rather have an EOD suit, which I can find on characters like Shoichi or Nikki, and if I kill them, pick that item off them, that's actually a considerable power spike for me, even though I am not building like a transition item, so to say. So doing those small transitions and knowing what your characters benefit well with is something definitely worth noting. I just go to dac.gg, see win rates with whatever items. Also, just keep in mind, what does my character need? What stats am I trying to boost for this character? And just pick up items that will help those stats. I love Wiccaline. She is my wife, she is my queen, and it makes me sad that most players in this game do not know how to contest Wick properly. Usually they go at it with the all or nothing approach. Either I'm just gonna show up and I'm gonna try to start taking it, or I'm just not gonna worry about it at all. So most players do something called ghosting, which they just kind of hover around Wick until someone starts it, and if someone starts it, they're just gonna all in, try to kill the person and take Wick for themselves. But say you're playing a character that needs Wick and is very aggressive in getting Wick. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to try to kite it out a little bit, but not fully commit. You can step in the goo to drag it back to you, but you just want to kind of keep kiting it and pretty much just keep it close to you. And if it gets low enough, you go for it. You full send. If you look at most high elo lobbies, they're just kind of in the same zone as Wick, and once they see it moving a little weird on the map, that's when they commit to it. The person who first commits is usually going to be missing cooldowns and some amount of health, so they're going to be in a pretty sticky situation. New players, I see this a lot, new players don't check bushes. Homie, did you not play League of Legends? So the difference in this game is you don't really have the option just not to go through bushes, right? Like if that's a path that you need to go, then you inevitably have to check the bushes. But what people don't tell you is most characters have a way to check that bush, right? Like Aya can shoot into the bush, Adri can W into the bush, Jenny can Q into the bush. There's a lot of options, and say your character doesn't really have an option to check a bush, they can build drones, cameras, you name it. Just don't go around blind checking bushes, especially later into the game where you have this like horny Hunwoo just waiting to push you into a wall and one shot you. Like, we need to do better. Speaking of vision, this next thing people mess up on is pretty hyper specific, but I think is very important, is at the end of every night, you get free vision of everyone, right? People don't use this. Pull up your map. At the end of every night, just do it. Trust me. You're gonna get so much information of where people are. You can say, hey, no one's really in this zone. This zone probably hasn't been farmed yet if you're looking for more farm. You can see where people are at going for objectives. Really, there should be no excuse of like, oh, I can't find any farm on the map if you have this information. So something that new players pretty much never use are the animal timers. Animals are pretty important, right? You can bank some pretty cool stuff off of bears and wolves. If you press F8, you will see like the timer for when they're going to spawn next. So you can kind of plan your route into getting back when they're like first popping up. So you can grab them to see if you can get those rare resources, and more importantly, you can get your mastery up. This is something I like to do a lot. Like, I'll go down to dock, I'll grab bears, I'm like, okay, they're gonna come back in 5 minutes, and then I'll pretty much make my way back to dock and reap the rewards then. My last piece of advice, and it's not really something people fuck up on, right? Because it's not something that should be intuitive to the game. But if you're in a normals lobby and you're trying a new character and you're having a really hard time and you see a character like running at you, just try to emote at them, don't fight them, like, if you know you're gonna lose the fight. A lot of the times, like, veteran players will see that emote and be like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna mess with this guy, he's like super far behind on his build, it's definitely a new player, and they lay off. Just keep in mind, when you become that big, bad, scary veteran, and you have a newbie player emoting at you to say, hey, lay off, just make sure you do it, right? So most YouTubers at the end of their video or somewhere along say like, this is the percent of people who have not subscribed that are still watching. Well, I'm not going to do that. I want to shout out, thank you to my first female viewer. I was at 100% male up until yesterday. Very hype, very cool. Thank you for watching. So yeah, that's it. Peace.